Okay, thumbnail. I always forget to do thumbnail. What's wrong with you? Okay, no, don't. No. No. Can't do it. No, that's bad.
Let's do a cheesy rom-com where we're folding arms and back to back. Like I'm making a goofy face and you're making the face. It's like, oh, you.
Oh my god. All right.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Exmormon here. I've got my husband Jared helping me out. Thank you very much. Today we are going to be talking more about how to talk to your family about your faith transition. But first, I wanted to let you guys know that we are going to be in Salt Lake this weekend seeing the Book of Mormon musical for the very first time. I'm very excited about it. So next week we'll give you guys a review on that. But while we're in Salt Lake, we want to do a meetup with anyone that's interested. So follow me on Instagram for details about where we will be this Saturday, somewhere around lunchtime. All of you need to come say hi to us.
Yep.
So for the video today, what we have for you is some do's, some don'ts, and some tips when it comes to talking to your family about your faith transition. We're going to start with the don'ts. The first don't on my list is don't be accusatory. Don't start saying, oh, Joseph Smith was a bad guy and Brigham Young did this and da 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 da. And that's what I mean by don't be accusatory.
Really, don't even bring any of that up. You come in guns blazing with, okay, everybody, thank you for coming today. I just want to let you know Joseph Smith is a filthy pedophile. Everything that you love is shit. Then they're probably not going to respond well.
Nope. Yeah, and we are going to get even more into that. So don't be accusatory. The next don't is don't use the word cult. Now, I'm not saying that the Mormon church is or is not a cult. I'm just saying don't use that word when talking to your family because that will not make them feel very safe.
I think discussions of whether or not it's a cult are just useless in general. They could be interesting, but you're not going to accomplish anything discussing that with your family. I mean, you'll accomplish pissing them off.
There you go. I guess this could be a do's list if you want to piss your family off. Don't try to convince them that they are wrong. This does not work, and it only burns bridges. If you try to push your family into believing a certain way, it can actually just make them cling tighter to the church, which is not what you want. So do not try to convince them that they are wrong in order to somehow justify yourself.
Obviously, I didn't even have this talk with my family because I don't care to have that talk. But if you're going to, the talk isn't a debate over whether or not the church is true. It's just to let them know this is why I'm not going to be at the temple anymore. Mm-hmm. It's more of a courtesy thing. So you're not there to prove anything. You're just there to
tell them.
Inform.
Exactly. I think you got to keep the purpose in mind. And the purpose should be to inform them on your new life decisions so that you can feel free to be yourself and that they understand why you won't be participating in certain family, gatherings. So keeping that in mind, it makes it easier to realize, okay, this is not about me trying to convince them of anything or prove anything. It's just me letting them know what's going on. The next don't I have, and this will just depend on your situation. Again, this is advice we've put together and gathered from you as the viewers, and you just got to take what you like and leave the rest. But the next is don't talk about church history. Now, I know, but hear me out. Throwing all this church history stuff at them can make them think you've just been reading the wrong sources. It can make them very scared and very upset and afraid of you. I have found that instead of bashing on church history, the conversations that I have with my family go much better when I stick to current policy that I don't agree with. So when my family's like, well, why don't you believe that it's true? Then I say, well, I don't see why God would care if two dudes want to get married. I just don't agree with that. That's harder for them to argue with than me saying oh, Joseph Smith was...
Have you not read The Bible?
Oh my God. That's harder in general for them to argue about than saying like, oh, well, Joseph Smith did this bad thing, and then being like, oh, you just have your sources wrong, or, oh, he did that because of blank. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you can just stick to, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with coffee. I don't think there's anything wrong with tea. Or in Jared's case, I don't think there's anything wrong with being blackout drunk every weekend.
And weekday.
Did you want to say anything about that?
About you accusing me on the internet of being an alcoholic?
Yes.
My name is Jared and I'm an alcoholic.
Okay, about the church history stuff.
I mean, obviously it can depend on who you're
talking
to. Like, for me, when I was learning all about it, it was, I would talk to my mom about it, and she was always really, I don't know, she was nice. I'd say, did you know that Joseph Smith married a 14-year-old? She was like, yeah, it's crazy stuff. Because she knew most of these issues. And so if you have someone like that, then you can talk about it, but...
Yeah, just gauge on, where your family's at and what they can handle. But I think in that initial conversation with them of telling them that you're leaving the church, it's not in your best interest to go into all this list of details of church history reasons. Because it just freaks them out and makes them scared of you. Not always, If Jared's mom is your mom, then, whatever. Now, getting to our do's. Do be as calm as possible. Which is really, really hard if you're, like me, and you wear everything on your sleeves.
What?
Shut up! So, be as calm as possible, because if you are coming across as really angry or really frustrated, it can just make things really difficult right off the bat, and it can cause them to want to get really defensive, which will only make you more upset and them more upset. So.
I should say, just don't attach emotions to it. Just kind of plainly present your case, as in like, well, I'm not going to be going to church anymore, and be nice to them, but like give your positive emotions to them, like telling them I love you, make them feel loved and everything, but don't attach any emotions to the message that you're actually delivering to them. Even if they ask you for problems, like why are you wanting to leave? You don't want to be like, because Brigham Young was a fucking tyrant. Just be like, well, Brigham Young did these things, and
it made me feel this way, or whatever, and
brought me to these conclusions. Just state it as like as an emotionless fact.
That's pretty much how Jared handled like talking to me about church history stuff. So I'd like to rewind for a second. So he left years before I did, and he was really like patient, and he always would like reassure me and be like, I love you no matter what, like just so you know, like you could be Mormon your whole life and I love you. And so he was really reassuring and made me feel safe in like what I was doing. And then like, I don't know, I mean there was hard times, but as we worked through it, I feel like we did get to that point where I would ask him questions, and he would say like, he would be like that. He'd be like, well, this happened and it made me feel this way. But he would act so like, oh, it's not a big deal. This is just like what it is. And I was always just like, wait, what? But it made me like more curious rather than like getting defensive if he were to be like, did you know Brigham Young did this and da 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 da. And so like it actually, I was just like confused because he wasn't the angry, bitter ex-Mormon that like I was taught he was going to be. So I think that helped me a lot. So anyway.
Well, if you're angry and bitter about it, your guard's going to be up. Like, oh, they're attacking. Like it.
Yeah.
If you say you believe in a farce, they're going to be like,
yeah.
What's this person doing? Why are they? It's an instinct. And
yeah.
But if you just say it as if you're, I don't know, reading a news headline.
Right.
Then their guard doesn't come up and they're just like, okay, I'll listen to this plainly stated sentence.
Yeah, and just to emphasize, like, you are absolutely allowed to be mad. You are allowed to feel like those feelings, because a lot of us dealt with a lot of stuff that was really unfair because of this. But all we're saying is don't be angry and over emotional during this conversation with your family as much as possible. we've talked about in previous videos, find healthy people to outlet that anger to. Jared was really good about doing that when I was still in the church. He would never really express like his anger toward me. He would do that on the ex-mormon subreddit or wherever. And so I was like, man, he's just like so loving and nice, even though he's not Mormon. And it like created cognitive dissonance for me, even though I didn't realize he was mad. But he was really good about just kind of trying to filter that so that it didn't scare me. So
I just wrote a bunch of shitty, angsty songs about it.
We're going to have to show you guys some of those sometime. The next do I have is be sympathetic. It's really hard to do. Again, we've talked about this in previous videos. It's really hard to be sympathetic to how hard this is on your family because you're caught up in how hard it is on you. And you're like, they're the ones that are crazy, but like you also feel like you're the crazy one if you're like the only one that's not Mormon. So anyway, the point is be sympathetic to their side. Realize that their whole life they may have been told that this is like the worst possible thing that could happen to you as a person, and they have a lot of fear around that. So recognize if your parents or siblings or whoever you're telling are lashing out at you in anger or fear. Remember that this is just because they really care about you, they care about your well-being, and they don't know any better way. They really just don't a lot of times.
I think humans are very tribalistic creatures, and your instinct is going to be to sympathize with your tribe. Mm-hmm. So if I have a Mormon and an ex-Mormon in one room, and I tell them, like, someone they both know, like, hey, Fred left the church and his wife is still in the church. He just told her about it. The ex-Mormon is more likely to think, oh man, that sucks for him. He's going to have to deal with all that. She's going to be sad and angry at him, and he's going to, he's going to feel lonely being the only ex-Mormon. The Mormon is going to say, oh man, I feel so bad for Fred's wife. She's, they sympathize more with their side. Try to remember what it was like. Like, if you're talking to your wife about this, to her, like, she just lost her eternity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big deal. Remember what that was like, the narrow path you gotta walk to get to the celestial kingdom in Mormonism.
And that they really believe that, and that's why they may say things that are very hurtful. I think Mormons can often say things that are very hurtful that they don't view as hurtful. Like, oh, you've just been reading bad sources, or you've been led by the devil. Like, they don't realize how condescending that feels to someone who has agonized over this decision for years, usually. I mean, it's not usually something that just happens that fast. And I was going to add, I think you did a really good job when you first left at being really sympathetic to my side. Because you were like, I don't know, you would listen to me and how scared I was, and you didn't get like defensive, The next do is be honest about your boundaries. When you're first leaving the church, all of us have different expectations and boundaries. Like for me, like it doesn't bother me to go to church occasionally for like baby blessings and stuff like that. And some people, it really does bother them. Like you have to let your family know up front what your expectations are. It doesn't have to be in the first conversation you have with them, but I think it's important to establish somewhere near the beginning, like, listen, I don't want you guys pressuring me, or I don't want you guys doing whatever, so just be honest about what boundaries you are comfortable with. It makes it easier on your family, it makes it easier on you.
I can't really have anything to add to that.
That's because I'm perfect. Do, if you feel comfortable with this, let your family know that you're open to explaining your reasons if they come to you and ask about it. The reason I say this is because with all the experience we've had, and I mean, we've been in this community for a while now, we think that instead of presenting to your family, like, I'm leaving and here's why, A, B, C, D, E, and like, they're not open to hearing those reasons, especially if this catches them really off guard. But if you present it to them and say, listen, I have a lot of reasons as to why I don't want to be a part of this church anymore. If any of you have any questions at all, I am very happy to talk to you about it and provide whatever sources you might want to look into. If you present it that way, it can facilitate more curiosity, and curiosity is like the opposite of being defensive, right? You're more open to asking and questioning. So if you present it to your family and let them know that you're open to talking about it, you may end up being a better resource for them than thinking that, oh, you're this biased, evil, anti-Mormon kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm just too good.
I actually kind of spaced out.
The next do is be reassuring. Be reassuring to your family that you love them just the same, and reassure them that you are going to respect their decisions to, like, love this church. And that's hard to do, because when you just leave, you want to convert everyone to the truth, right? You want to be like, oh my gosh, you guys have no idea what you've gotten into, and da-da-da. But, like, it just does not help. Generally, if they aren't asking why, they don't want to know why. If you can keep that in mind, it can give you permission to not try to feel like you have to deconvert them. And it's so easy to want to.
I mean, it's the cave. Was it Plato?
Yeah, I think so.
When somebody leaves the cave, that light burns them, finding out that what they were watching were just shadows on a wall. A lot of them, like, he comes back and he tries to bring the other guys out, and they don't want to come out no matter what he tells them. And that guy is probably very frustrated. That guy's like, what the hell, man? I walked out of this cave. I'm telling you, those shadows are nonsense, and there's a world out there. And it's beautiful and it's scary, and there's, freedom is terrifying to people, because once you're free to choose, you now have to choose. You have to build up an entire foundation, and that's scary. So just understand that this might sound insulting, comparing the church to the cave, but if you're insulted by it, I don't know why you're watching this.
Go over to Saints Unscripted.
Go watch Kwaku's videos. Kwaku. Yeah, it's the most popular name in Ghana. I should have known that.
Oh,
That's how you pronounce it.
Oh, my gosh. Sorry if you guys don't get that reference. It's just ex-Mormon drama. Now we're getting to the tips. The first tip, now we've kind of already touched on this, but it's stick to current policy instead of throwing all these details at them about church history. And the reason why I've kind of already gone into this is just that it's harder for them to refute, and it can facilitate for them more critical thinking. Like when you say, like, I don't know, like, why God would care if we drink coffee. That may cause them to be like, well, they'll probably want to give the obedience answer, because obedience brings blessings, even when you don't have a clue why. Now, they may just do that, but it still, I think, facilitates more of an opportunity to think through something than just throwing at them all of this information about church leaders from the past.
Plus, you also don't have to be a historian to say, I don't think God cares about coffee. Once you bring up history, they're going to ask you what sources you've used.
Richard Bushman knows all this stuff, and he's still LDS. Prophets in the Bible were really evil, and they were still prophets. Love that. Stick to current policy. The next tip I have, kind of along the lines with the one we just said, and it's don't feel like you have to give them every single reason for why you wanted to leave. This can often just backfire, because again, it can overwhelm them. And also sometimes you'll find out that a certain family, like, you'll bring something up like, oh, did you know Joseph Smith did this and this is why I'm leaving? And they may say to that, oh, I knew that all along and I'm still a faithful member. And that can just make you feel very, like, belittled in the moment. So I think it's another reason why you just have to get to a place where you're confident enough to say, I have these reasons for leaving, and I feel good about these reasons, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. Easier said than done, but awesome.
It's also, if you want to give them every little detail, you're going to bombard them. And I think it's just a part of leaving it is you're going to want to bombard someone with everything. So find an ex-Mormon, whether it be online or someone that you know, and you can word vomit all you want at them and they're going to be fine with it. Just know your audience.
In a previous video, I've even mentioned several awesome resources where you can find people to talk to that can totally understand you, and I can post those resources at the bottom of this video as well. My next tip is to use the word want. There's a key word here because your family may ask you to like read certain books or go to certain things to try to fix you or whatever. You have to be willing to say, I don't want to. And the reason why here is because if you keep allowing your family to kind of push you in a certain direction, you may feel resentful of them and they may feel frustrated when it feels like you're not taking their advice seriously. But if you just straight up say, I don't want to, it's really hard for them to argue with that. They could say, well, you should want to.
Yeah, you do.
But this is your life. It's your decision. You can absolutely let them know what you feel comfortable with and what you don't. My last tip is to be patient with yourself and with your family. Having these conversations can be very difficult and very uncomfortable for everyone involved, and it can make you want to just like never talk to them about it again. But I will say that over time and with practice, you can learn how to have these productive conversations with them where you can understand their perspective better and they can understand your perspective better as well. And it's less about changing each other's mind at that point as it is just understanding each other and having more love and acceptance because of that. So be willing to have the hard conversations and realize that if they're also willing to have it, that over time it can get a lot better and easier. You can learn to feel like you belong again with your family.
I mean, just kind of understand that for you, it's been quite a journey. You've seen every turn that you've made, but to them, it's all new.
It's in an instant.
They haven't seen you progress to the point where you're at. They haven't seen what it took to get you there. So to them, it was you had this monster testimony. You're a giant among men, and then one day it just blows up. So they're gonna...
It could only be Satan.
They're gonna be a little unreasonable a lot of the time, and just take it in stride.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, because recognizing that they haven't seen the journey. So their brain is like, how did they go from A to B? I don't understand. Being patient with that perspective. So the last thing we have in this video for you today is a little bit of an outline. It's kind of basic, but it's an outline of what all to include in this conversation with your family. And in the description below, I'm also going to post, I've written up a bunch of examples of language to use. It's just a bunch of little snippets, and you can just go through and see if any of that resonates with you or if it's helpful if you're trying to draft a letter or plan your speech or whatever. So that will be in the description below if you need extra ideas of how to phrase things. So for the outline, the first step we say is state that your beliefs have changed. Now, for some of us, it's just, I don't believe in this church, or I don't want to be a part of this church anymore. For some of us, it's I am atheist, or I'm agnostic, or I am joining another church. Like, don't feel like you have to label yourself to give them an explanation. You can absolutely just say, I don't know what I believe, but I know it's not this church.
I also wouldn't drop the atheist bomb on them right away.
Yeah.
I know too many people who, when they told their family, well, do you at least believe in God still? I would suggest not even going there.
Right.
That's probably more than they can handle. Just keep it simple.
So the first step is state your beliefs have changed and go into as much detail as you feel necessary. The next step is to state either your reasons why, or, as we recommend, let them know that if they have questions, you are happy to answer them. After that, the next step we say is to reassure them about your love for them and that you don't want the relationship to suffer. And then after that, reassure them that you will be totally respectful of their beliefs, which is hard to do, but I believe in you all. So that's the outline we have for you guys. Comments on the outline?
I think that a lot of people don't try to be respectful of their family's beliefs. A lot of it because you've found out this stuff, and obviously respect needs to be earned. And maybe you've found out that, like, Joseph Smith is undeserving of your respect. sure, that's fine. Don't give it to him, but give it to them because your relationship depends on it. Plus, they are where you were at yesterday. Don't act like you're better than anyone because they believe today something that you believed yesterday.
It's kind of hypocritical. It's like, how could they believe these things? But really, that shock is just you shocked that you ever believed it, you know? Like,
yeah, it's something that you used to believe in. You should know better than anyone why they believe it.
yeah, so be patient with them. I really hope you guys have found some of this information useful. I just know for me, when I felt like I was going through this faith crisis journey, it was really hard and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to talk to my family about it. And every situation is so different, but we're just trying to give you the best advice that we can come up with. This won't apply to everyone, but we hope that it's helpful for at least some of you.
Welcome to Sit Down with Sister Jensen.
Hey everyone, Sister Jensen here, coming at you with a little bit of advice on what to do when you find out that your child is actually one of Satan's children. We'll do this in a little do's and don'ts format. First do, I would say, do assure them that you knew all along their testimony was probably not strong enough that they would qualify for outer darkness. Let them know that you will visit them in the celestial kingdom and that they probably wouldn't have wanted all the responsibility and glory that comes with getting your own planet anyway. Passive aggression and sobbing and manipulation are definitely some of your greatest allies here. Make sure to make it about yourself. Say things like, where did I go wrong? What did I do to deserve this? So that you can shift the narrative away from their shattering worldview and onto the pain that it's causing you, which will thus entice them to come back to the church and just believe out of guilt. Make sure to have a couple books on the top of your head that you've never read, but you're pretty sure would guilt somebody into coming back to the church. My last do is to make sure that they know that they're being led by Satan, because what better way to bring somebody back than to let them know that they're following the father of all evil? Now for my list of don'ts. I would say certainly avoid phrases like unconditional love, support, or sympathy. Certainly do not invite them to any more family functions. We don't want them to drive the spirit away for the rest of us righteous people who don't hate God. And certainly don't write them out of your will. Oh, goodness, I need to... Do write them out of your will. Sorry, got that one mixed up.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for all of your support. We are super excited about being in Salt Lake this weekend, so don't forget to look me up on Instagram to find the details. We really look forward to meeting you guys. And we are also really looking forward to the Book of Mormon musical. We'll tell you guys about it next week. Wait. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Now you can sing.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum 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 bum.